Okay, y'all, it is story time. So there was a man, his name was Tobias. Um, his story's in the Bible. You can look it up. So Tobias, he had been befriended by Raphael, the archangel. But Raphael presented as a human at the time. So this story is not about them, but I just wanted to give you a little insight. So Raphael talked Tobias into marrying Sara. So Sara had been cursed. Every time she married someone, they would die on her wedding night. So she was never able to consummate the marriage. Tobias married Sara, and so the story goes, he was able to break the curse. And there's more to it, and you can look it up if you are interested. After he broke the curse, he he felt that he owned Sara, and he treated her as such. It was just a horrible, horrible marriage. And back in those days, there was no divorce, so she was stuck with him. And he was very abusive to her. And she had a very unhappy life, needless to say. So every time Sara, her soul, reincarnated, most of the times Tobias would find her. No matter who he was, he would find her. And he was never nice to her. There was one reincarnation where she was a slave and he was a slave owner, and he was so brutal to her. He beat her, he raped her, he mutilated her. He mutilated a lot of folks, and he stole their souls. And so the night that he killed her in the barn, he would put plastic on the top of the ceiling and catch the souls. He would use the energy from those souls. Her soul, when he killed her, went up to the roof, and there just happened to be a little crack in that plastic, and that soul slid through the plastic and slid through a crack in the ceiling and was free. And because that soul had freedom, Tobias was not, no matter what life, he was not always able to track her. And then fast forward, Tobias became a fallen angel. He was one of the fallen. And once he became one of the fallen, and there's more to the story than that. They were both there. They knew each other in the heavens, and they would have these lives, but he would track her. Once she became free, he was unable to track her. Okay, so once he became a fallen angel, he would look for her. He would look for her. He would search the planet for her. So she decided to have lives in other places. And she was very, very bright, very smart. And she really did some masterful things in these other lives. She became a scientist. She became an alchemist. She was very into symbols, very much into how the planet worked, numerology, and the list of things that she mastered goes on and on and on. So fast forward into this lifetime, she was not Sara. I won't say her name, but some of you can guess it. She reincarnated in this lifetime, and he found her. And he, being a fallen angel, had no idea that she had become a master at so many things. She was no longer the soul he had once known. She was very smart, very aligned, and could no longer be manipulated by Tobias, who in this life was not Tobias, by the way. So he finds her in this lifetime, and then he presents himself as someone else. She was just going through a spiritual awakening, had started to wake up, and she was on her journey and becoming a master in different things. But when she encountered him, she didn't know it was him. But he, right away, he knew it was her. He had looked for her lifetime after lifetime. And so he knew it was her. He had been kind of plotting her demise once he had found out who she was. And so he came into her life, and he presented as someone who was of light. And he wasn't, and he had been doing all kind of witchcraft and black magic and all of this stuff, having no idea that she had become a master of the light and the dark, that she was aligned with many deities and beings whom he had built somewhat relationships with. Well, her relationships were far more stronger than anything he could have ever imagined. They tolerated him. They loved her. So he began to plot her demise, which was actually his demise. Because the way the planet is now, you cannot send out that kind of dark energy, that kind of dark magic, without it going back to you. And plus, she had aligned herself with so many beings of light and dark, and they had so much love for her. There was no way they were going to allow him to do anything to her. So as he worked his magic, and he worked, and he influenced the people around him, they all loved him, and they praised him, not knowing or being unaware, most, of how dark and conniving and manipulative and cunning he really was. So eventually he realized he could not take her down. So he brought more beings, whether they be humans, hybrids, whatever, in, knowing that they would go down. He brought them in, and one by one they fell. And some left the planet because, and he knew that anything they did would go back to them. But he had hoped that they would tire her out, and then he would take her down. So as all these beings did all this work, root work from practitioners, which would go back to them, and some of them being taken off the planet. And he talked so many beings into doing so much malicious things. And as they left the planet, they blamed her, as if she had something to do with it. And at the time, she was not aware that he had maliciously talked these beings into doing his dirty work. And finally, he came to the realization that he could not take her out. He had tried everything. And he was losing. He was losing money. He was losing his health. He was losing his energy. And some were waking up, so he was losing allies. So he and several dark witches made one last attempt to take her down and to take her mother down. Her mother was 80 some odd years old, had nothing to do with it. And they all did their magic. They did the root work, not knowing that her mother was once an oracle and that the gods would not allow it. So all the work they did bounced back to them. They begin to age very quickly, lose their hair. The energy they had sent out was coming back swiftly, quickly, and with a vengeance. It began to take folks out that had been involved, and these fallen angels had been here so long. They knew how to manipulate the energy so that it didn't hit them. They could care less about all the other beings that they were taking out. They just didn't want it to hit them. So as they manipulated the energy, and they begin to age and get darker, and others begin to leave the planet, they still wanted to take her out. They refused to let her go. The gods had even come and said, "Not this one. You will not be able to take her out." They wouldn't listen. So, one last ditch effort to take her out. And of course, the light and the dark stood in the way of any energies that were being sent. And they had begun to lose their abilities. So because they had done so much to her, she was gifted the ability to take gifts away from those on the planet who were abusing them. So she began to take his gifts away and others' gifts away that had abused them. Only folks who abused their gifts. If they abused their gifts, if they had tried to take her mother, her 80-year-old mother out, or if they had tried to take her out, and if they had an understanding that she shouldn't be taken out and they still tried to, their gifts were taken. She could box them up, and they would be sent to the heavens, well, past the heavens if I'm being honest, into a chamber where they're kept, and the people could not get their gifts back. Those gifts would eventually be given to well-deserving folks. But she had nothing to do with that process. She was only tasked with taking gifts of people who had been abusing their gifts. And she did. And she took his gifts. Finally, she took his gifts. She had the ability to take gifts for a long time. She wouldn't use it. She would not use it. Even though she saw smoke come from her, all kinds of things she saw, and she never used the gift. But enough was enough. She finally began to use the gift and collect their gifts. She would box them up, and then she actually was assigned a team of beings because some would fight for their gifts. So there was a team of beings who aligned with her, who would go and snatch their gifts. Once they were in the box would close and it would automatically go to the chamber where it would sit and be redistributed one day. And once the gifts were in the box, it was done. Actually, it was done before that. It was done the second your name was on the list to take your gifts because you had abused them. And usually when your name was on the list, you had abused them more than 3 times on individuals that did not deserve it. Okay, so she took his gifts. And boy, was he upset. I mean, he was on fire. I want my gifts back. Give me my gifts back. She could hear him. She didn't listen. He wasn't getting his gifts back. They had already gone into the chamber. There was nothing she could do. He did not deserve them. He had done a lot of horrible things. All the souls he had stolen, he didn't deserve those gifts. So, one day, she was talking to a lady, and all of a sudden the lady said she was a medium and there was someone coming through. And it was Tobias. And she was like, what? And he came through her and he said, give me my gifts back. And she immediately said, no, I won't give you your gifts back. And little did she know, a box opened up in front of her. She had never seen that type of box. It was all colorful. It was yellow and blue and it was just a beautiful, colorful box. And she could see all of this light coming from him. It was the souls he had stolen. He had so many souls locked away, and she had pulled them into the box. That colorful rainbow box. And she closed the box. And as he yelled, a deed, there was a paper, a scroll, that all of a sudden appeared. And blue light hit the scroll, and it began to burn in this blue light. And you could hear screaming as that scroll burnt. And then you could hear crying as the souls realized they were free. She had freed all of the souls he collected. They were in the box. She told him he would not reincarnate. He would not get the souls back, and all contracts were null and void. He had no right to those souls any longer. He could not speak. He was so devastated. And all of a sudden, the blue light that burned the scroll surrounded him, and he disappeared. And then the medium said, what the hell just happened? And she said, I don't know, but he's gone. And she took the box of souls and she stashed it. She went on about her day. And that night, she took the souls up to the heavens, up to the angels. And one angel at a time came for each soul and told them they were free. And they paired with each angel as the soul stepped out of the box. The angel took the soul's hand, and one by one, they went with the angels for healing and for record keeping and a host of other things that they do when a soul is free. At that time, she wept because she knew Sara's soul was in there. Time after time when he found her, it was in there. It had fractured, which means broken, when she slipped through the ceiling or the roof of the shed, but she got all of her back. The souls previous, before that fracture. She became one again. She became whole. And all of a sudden, she could see exactly what had happened. Her gifts were coming back. She could see the past, present, and the future. She could see that she had come to the planet to help heal, and that there were many that were being judged, and the judgment was going through her. She was not the judge. She was the tester, to test the souls to see if they were eligible for ascension. She could see many of these souls she knew in past lives. Many of them helped him, and some did not. Some deserved a chance. And so she spent the rest of her days, I would assume, helping folks with ascension and healing. And that is the story of Sara, who was Tobias's wife. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.